because times are tough all over. But maybe you can tell somebody. Friends, family, complete strangers in the street. Run up to them and shake them. Grab them by the shoulders and tell them, you must listen to Revolution Radio, I tell you. Ideally Plato's Cave or Shiny Side Out, but any show will do. And then you must donate. Actually, I probably should say that you shouldn't do that because they'll lock you up for it. But if you can tell your friends and family, that'd be great. Today is the 25th of July, 2023. It's a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday, that's right. You can catch The Cave, all on the ground, on air, on the line, and onto the smart devices that you have. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home at Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. And what's even better, and might persuade you to donate, is that the archives are free. Go to the home page, revolution.radio, pretty easy to find, www.right. And just go up there, it says archives, which helps on the nav bar. On the nav bar, it says archives. Go in there, click through, and it will lead you to the archives, which you can listen to entirely free of charge. That's pretty cool. Now, before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
I'm broadcasting from Dark and Junk Country.
Thank you, sir. Myself from the beautiful country of the Daruk people, and we would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and also future.
Agreed.
Indeed it is. It is of greatness, a great many greatnesses. I'll tell you what, though, it's getting hot in the Northern Hemisphere.
Tomorrow, 50 degrees somewhere. Crazy, too.
Yeah. I know people say, it's been hot before. True. That's true. It's true. It's been hot before. not quite like this. And it's funny when the summers happen now in the Northern Hemisphere, and then the summer, of course, after that in the Southern Hemisphere, because as you know the seasons are reversed. Also, it wouldn't happen on a flat Earth. Just throwing it in there. So, seasons are reversed, and the Northern Hemisphere, is on fire. It's on fire. Canada, a lot of Europe, Northern Africa, China, and there's flooding as well. Flooding and rain, and in fact, horrific flooding across most of Asia as well. Storms
through the equatorial region right now, right?
Yeah, and thousands of tourists have now been evacuated because, of course, see, the thing is this: July and August, and I remember this vividly. In Europe, it's when you have your big summer break. It's 6 weeks.
That's it.
And everybody goes somewhere, and a lot of the northern and western Europeans like to go to the Mediterranean.
Yeah, Mallorca.
It's close. Yeah,
Spain.
It's close and it's warm. It's it's the Mediterranean.
You used to be able to go to Crimea.
Yeah, well, not so much anymore.
Not so much.
That's maybe next year. But now you are essentially seeing thousands upon thousands of tourists evacuated, which is of course a catastrophe for the Greek economy.
Yeah.
And depending on how this heat wave is going to sustain itself for other Mediterranean nations as well, certainly Italy. I mean, it's hot, and it is crazy hot. And we need to understand this, everybody. It actually is crazy hot. So it brings to mind.
I was going to throw something in there before you leave the hot part with the flames and the people. Anyway, I was going to say I'm used to a campfire, Mackie. In middle of winter. Nice campfire, not too close, not too far away, just right. And one with a solid back so you don't get the influx of cool air on your back, right? You enjoy it. Beautiful campfire. Yeah. And what does that do? It warms you up. So when there is excessive heat in the atmosphere, that's all you need, isn't it? Is that the added burden of additional heat fueling the heat wave? More fires. So not only is it just perpetuated by the sun's energy, just moving hot air around. But it's now also got the accelerator of fire.
Yeah.
And the fires on them, and the size they're on, or they're actually at, I would say, are adding to that temperature. Because, Meki, where was it do you remember where they said that it was going to be 50 degrees tomorrow? Celsius?
It was Sicily, I want to say, but I could be wrong.
I'm going to check it out.
It was, but those temperatures are, I can tell you, okay, I haven't lived in Europe for 30 years, I understand, right? But I lived there for 20 years, right? I was born there, and then I came to Australia when I was 19. In fact, I celebrated my 19th birthday here, so it was 19 and a half when I came. But anyway, the point is, it's inconceivable to even entertain the thought of any such temperature in Europe at the time when I was there. Inconceivable. We're talking Dubai now. We're talking Sahara. We're talking Death Valley. That's the point. We're talking Death Valley. Yes, temperatures like that exist.
They do.
Absolutely.
Death Valley in Saudi Arabia.
You know why? You know why it's called? You know why it's not called Paradise Valley? Because it's too hot.
I don't know.
It'll kill you.
Oh.
It'll kill you dead very quickly. And that is the point here. And I know a lot of people are going,
it's been hot before, Mickey.
The shiny side outers, they're shills, for the establishment.
Shills?
No, not at all. This is reality, okay? And the problem is, again, if we were shills, we'd say, it's not a problem, don't worry about it. Yeah, it's okay, you'll be fine, it's all good. No, it's not going to be fine, and you're not going to be good. You must prepare now. And no one in the world tells you this. We tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else says, we got to reduce our carbon emissions. That ship has sailed.
It's gone.
That plane has flown into the coal dust. Okay? It's gone.
We are way past fixing it. But you remember, the guilted fix was on us when it wasn't us doing it.
That's right.
It was the large polluters that were doing it. If you're going to attribute it to anyone, as them, not us.
I want to introduce everybody to
0.06% of the global emissions are created by humans. Personally,
there's a theme here, guys and girls. There's a theme. The economy. Oh, that's the workers' fault. They're getting paid too much. This inflation thing. Several 100,000 people in Australia need to be lose their job, or millions, in fact, globally need to lose their job before it goes. So that's one. It's the people's fault.
Oh yeah.
Global climate change.
Those people.
It's the people. People. Housing. People. And I'm being Australia specific here, but it's the same in almost every other country. Now they came up with a plan in Australia to tax the super profits of the banks and the resources companies.
Yeah.
Because that would pay for all the housing we need. Right? So it is not the mom and pop investors that are killing the housing market. It is not the workers that are killing our economy with high inflation, which is a nonsense anyway. It is not us consumers going on holidays or driving our cars that are killing, if in fact we are, if we were,
that's right. It's killing
the planet. The polluters, the biggest polluters in the world, and I'm going to something about water in a second, are corporations.
Energy producers and farming, agriculture.
So we are reaping what our civilization has been sowing for hundreds of years. And
that's right.
Hasn't been longer than this. In fact, less than hundreds, probably a couple hundred, if that. Mm-hmm. We're seeing the final death throes of a civilization that is striving for ever greater profits in a system of limited resources.
That's right.
It's a complete nonsense. And I agree with Greta Thunberg when she says it. I was so happy when she said it. It's a fantasy that we can chase ever greater profits in a limited and finite system.
That's right.
It's not possible. It's insanity.
Mm-hmm.
And markets are not self-regulating.
No, they're not.
Because humans. Okay?
Yeah.
And water. Now, in Uruguay, and this is just an example, right? But in Uruguay, you can't get any water anymore. The only water you can get, this is in major cities as well. And in rich areas, they can only get brackish salt water because they're pumping that out.
It's gone down to the saltwater table, yeah?
No. They actually, no, forget that. They actually have to go into the estuaries and pump the water from there. That's what they're doing. Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, millions of liters a day are being used by industry and foreign industry in that very same country. And you're thinking, this is happening all the world over.
Mm-hmm.
Water, fresh water, is actually, as you think, oh, we got so much water. Not true. We've got very little fresh water. We've got very, very little fresh water.
That's right.
And it's actually diminishing in its abundance. It's actually becoming less. We don't know why. These big lakes, the Baikal Sea and so forth, they're drying up. We're losing glacial water. We're losing water from the Alps. We're losing water from any large mountain range, as well as from the poles.
That's right.
And all that frozen water is all that ice is fresh water, right?
Yeah.
And we're losing it to seawater. And we're not freezing enough again in the winter to replenish what's there. So rivers are running dry.
Mm-hmm.
So we are facing a massive water crisis, as if we don't have enough to worry about. So imagine a really hot summer with massive fires and no water.
Now there's a recipe for goodness. Disaster, right. The other one.
So it's almost, and this is what I was going to mention earlier,
yeah.
It is almost as though we were in a terraforming, not really terraforming event, but we are seemingly in an event that is changing our world to suit, maybe, this is Plato's case.
Not us.
Right? Yeah, not us. That is suiting someone, not us. Mm-hmm. It's not usual, Dave. It's not usual.
No, I know. So, do you know what? We've got a dam, and there's very little snowfall usually. A lot of it's artificial snow. In the snowy mountain, power scheme. And so they decided what they're going to do. They're going to pump water up into the dam through renewables. Except there's a lot of losses along the way, and if you're just going to use renewables to pump it up there, why didn't you just use the power from the renewables in the first place?
Yeah.
Because of all the losses, you actually end up in the negative. You can't produce more power with the water than you could that it cost you in power, in kilojoules, to lift it up. So, wow. Could you imagine if the solution, Mackie, was flying jumbo jets full of water and landing them on the American Rockies just so that California kept having water?
Really?
No, I'm just saying, could you imagine?
Oh.
It's a fake scenario.
Oh. Yeah, well, yeah.
Right? Just imagine how much that would cost.
I think at that point, cost
is out the window.
Irrelevant. You know what's interesting?
What's that?
Since you mentioned cost.
Yeah, okay.
The Arabs, the Saudis especially, but they have oil, a lot of oil, right?
Oh, yeah.
They don't care about oil at all.
No.
Not even in the slightest. You know what they care about?
The
water.
Line.
They care about water.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they care about.
Much water.
And in fact, they're desert people. And they know the value of water.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
if you live in a...
Go on. No, they have the most amount of desert plants.
if you live in a desert, then you will appreciate
the
value of water. It is that simple. It really is.
Do you know? I saw that they're building the line, that 100-mile long building, at sea level.
Oh yeah.
You know it's at sea level, right?
The sea.
It's at sea level. Fools!
Oh my!
All the people that are hanging off that project, all the basically the who's who of construction, all passed this just so they could build it. I watched a documentary on the architects and the designers and the engineers, and everyone's like all on board. Yeah, it's great. And it's like, where are we going to put it? We're going to put it right here. And they didn't blink. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? Well, it's going to be good to build, surely. Won't be a lick of good to live there, but it doesn't matter, right? Yeah, woo. You remember all those islands that the Saudis built that were just made of sand? They were real purity. They were real purity for a while, and then they, then the ocean did what the ocean does, and then they weren't purity anymore.
No, that's well. Look, but again, someone made money along the way, right? That's important.
And that doesn't matter if you've got so much money. Like, imagine, have you ever given your child like an amount of money that's obscene to them, right? When they're little, and you're in a toy store, and you go, "I don't care what you buy. There you go. Just run around and buy something."
Yeah.
They will buy anything that they can buy. Not they don't want it. They didn't need it. Certainly didn't need it. And they'll buy anything. And I watched the Saudi prince, I think, talking about this at length, about how they have enough money to invest in a building like this and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. And all I could think was, yeah, it's all of those things. And at sea level, you fool. Like, and the rail system will be under sea level that links it all together.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, good luck. They did a flyover, and it was at like 1 meter above sea level. What's okay today, you might not even finish building it before it's inundated.
Uh-huh.
But all the people that made money along the way, man, that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Everybody made money, so Dave, shut up.
Yeah, what do they care? What do they care about the money? Because I've seen the parties where they just throw money around. I've seen video of people who have
money fight.
Yeah, money fight. More money than. I'm going to be very kind. If I had those insane quantities of money, I think I'd have a hard time containing myself like they do. You see supercars or hypercars just parked on the side of the road because they ran out of fuel. I don't want that anymore. Have you seen them? Covered in sand? Just sitting there. Who's got the kids? I don't know. He just. The rumor is, he just drove it until it ran out of fuel and just left it. Got a ride home in his Hummer. I don't know. So look, that's enough criticism. But crazy. So if you think that's the solution, I really think they have to reflect maybe upon their decision. There's still early days. They could raise it off the ground and get them at least another 10 years or 20 years. If they're lucky.
I think we are living, and this was really the point earlier as well, we're living in complete denial. Not necessarily ours.
You are, Mickey. I'm not.
It's clear. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm. Yes, I am, Dave. Guilty as charged. And it's okay. And I mean this. It's okay because you've got a number of choices open to you. But let's examine them for a second, right? You can believe everything that you hear on radio and TV, which of course is a problem because it's all contradictory, right? That's an issue. Or you don't. Maybe you don't. Or only some of it, let's say, right? Then you have to find out your own truths, right? And then you might have to do your own research and find out for yourself what's happening. And then you may have to take action. But you may not want to. You don't have to. So you can believe everything that they tell you and not take action. And you can also do your research and then you find out stuff, but you still don't want to take action. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Action takes time and money and effort, and sometimes it's scary.
It is. I mean, who are we to tell you what to do? And we have no right. We have no right. But in my estimation, there's not a lot of time, and most of us can't afford to go on a generation ship, build a deep bunker or whatever. So we need to do what we can do, and as little as it may be. But I do I do hope that you can find something to help yourselves and your family, right? And then, of course, you can actively engage in changing. Run for office, right? Start a movement. Start maybe community organizing to build shelters or seed banks or whatever it might be. Or maybe you can pool resources and buy some farmland on high ground or near water sources or whatever it might be, right? Because these are all things that you can do. Because doing nothing is a choice. You've made a choice. It's okay. It's okay. No problem. I probably suggest that you do more than nothing though.
Mm-hmm.
And really?
I just for everyone, we have a private chat that we can talk to each other in, and you might have heard me typing. It's kind of a lot, but I thought maybe you might have consumed it in little chunks.
Yeah.
But there were some revelations last night that came out on Australian Fox News. Shari, Sharri, was one of the ones that did an expose on the Wuhan lab bat program, and they had vision from within the lab that the whistleblowers had taken and shown that they'd been performing all these tests and blah, whatever it was. Now, the video has been confirmed to be authentic from the lab, so it checked out. But what's just come out last night as a Freedom of Information request, but not directly from the platform Slack, that's what it's called, but rather from the, what's it called, Second Judicial Inquiry or something, Senate inquiry. So it's one layer down from a full Senate inquiry. It's a smaller inquiry in the US. And they'd subpoenaed all of these chats, thousands of chats between all of the physicians. And what they'd been talking about before they released their paper that the virus, and in their definition, was natural, was the fear that's in all of their chats, cumulative discussion that they had, was that they were scared that people would put the two together.
Really?
That it was man-made. And one of them, from Fauci, actually says, this is hearsay, totally hearsay, but it was brought up on Fox News, and I believe that they only run stuff that's been verified. And they've got it in quotes and labeling Fauci's text comment. This is still before the paper was released determining it from all of those scientists that it was a natural origin. They said if they find the cleavage site from the gain of function, this is Fauci, that the medical people, the lab people had made, they might themselves, I'm misquoting, determine that it was man-made. So I remember when, was it Rand Paul, was grilling him in an inquiry whether that he knew that gene sequence had been manipulated, the one from COVID-19.
Really?
And in that grilling, he said, there wasn't any gain of function in that lab. But here he is talking about it. If they find it, they might put the two together. They might realise that the gain of function that was occurring there, blah, 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 blah. So he knew. So that means he lied. I'm not saying he's guilty of anything. I'm only saying the moment that I saw that quote, and I hope it's misquoted, because I don't want to be right. and Shari's pretty good. Her other stuff has been pretty good, and let's hope that when all this boils down, if people in the world who had to undergo a whole bunch of stuff, and we would have reacted differently if we'd understood that it was man-made rather than natural, right? And all the people who instructed us to do all the things that may not have been good, just simply shutting us down immediately and for a while and isolating people might have been the quickest way through it. But now, hey, what do I know? Yeah, we had to go through like 3 years of crazy to get to an outcome. And then forcibly vaccinated against our will, right? Even though it wasn't, they're going to stick it in your arm regardless of you. Just stop wriggling. It's going to make it harder. No, it was through disincentive schemes, right?
Sorry.
Disincentive schemes. It was. They said that you can't travel, you can't do this. I couldn't see my daughter in hospital without being vaccinated, so I had to do that. And there's these programs, and the proof of those vaccinations are still valid today. So to go back into a hospital, you can't go in hospital unless you've been vaccinated. So yeah, it's very important. So it was a changing point. It was a time in history which we can never get back. We can't go back in time and fix it. But I'm really super disappointed about the lies. I don't like lies. Lies are bad.
I hear you, and I share your sentiment. However,
except
I completely expect it. I mean, see, in my life, this goes for everything except family and friends.
Yeah,
I expect nothing. My expectations are exactly zero. Okay, and in fact, in some cases, they're below zero. So no, seriously, I expect the media to lie to me. I expect politicians to lie to me. I expect big business to lie to me. I expect any organized institution, be it secular or religious, to lie to me. That's my expectation.
Advertising.
That's my starting point.
Yep.
Right? Because they do. Because the thing is this, right? They all say different things. All of them. Right? And contradictory things. So the truth is somewhere, but the vast majority must be lying to me. Right? Someone might be telling me the truth, but the vast majority of people that I interact with daily, even indirectly, are lying to me.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's a good premise to start from. And if you have that expectation, then you shouldn't get upset. Right? I get upset because I feel that these people think I'm stupid. That's what upsets me. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, he's stupid. He'll just, just tell him whatever you want. And I think that's what you are as well, Dave. I think you're upset because they think, or you think that they think you're stupid, which they probably do, right? They probably think that
they expect,
the great unwashed.
They do expect all of the great unwashed to be stupid, and just listen to them.
Gullible.
That becomes an autocracy. Or what is it when you don't resist?
Well, the mushroom. No, but yeah, it's you're right though. We're the great sheeple. It's just not a great nation of sheeples.
That's right.
And just think of all the things that happened. And since we're talking about the pandemic here a little bit, think of all the things that went on in the pandemic. Now, the pandemic happened before. Very similar scenarios in the Spanish flu.
That's
in fact, very similar pictures. But all the things that the government did, the massive lockdowns, for months, specific buildings with minorities, etc., that would not have stood 100 years ago. People wouldn't have stood for it. Okay? Now we just go, oh, okay. And it was really quite interesting. I'll give you a simple example in Sydney. In Sydney, the northern beaches are a massive council. Massive. It's huge.
Yeah.
At the beach, parks, everything. And when the lockdown was on, you were only allowed to be in your council area, right? Now, in the West, the councils or the council areas are usually a bit smaller, right? And so for the northern beaches, which usually has the more affluent people in Sydney, not only, but usually, it was as though the lockdown didn't exist because they never really left the northern beaches anyway.
That's right.
Right? I mean, it's just an inside joke in Sydney. Whereas in the West, right, the smaller councils, people had to leave their councils just to go to work. In fact, special dispensations were issued for people so they could go to work. Otherwise, Sydney would have simply come to a standstill.
That's right.
And it was discrimination in its purest form. And
in the northern beaches, there weren't police on every corner, and you weren't getting locked into your houses.
No.
But in like inner west, there were.
Yes.
That was actually pretty bad. So
it was.
Yeah. But see, one of the things, Becky, that surprised me was just how darned quickly a perfectly working pretend democracy turned into an autocracy.
You see,
a fascist autocracy. It wasn't doing it for its own good. It was doing it for the good of a very large company.
And the wealthy minority.
Yeah,
in fact,
yeah.
It started. The sentiment started in the 1960s. There was a bit of an upheaval because people didn't like it. That led to the hippie movement of the 70s. And then with the 80s and 90s, it sort of mellowed out, but it was the control mechanisms were still being enforced. But people were feeling good. You know, we had beaten communism, blah, blah, blah. And there was a general upbeat mood. There was an upbeat mood in the West, generally speaking. Right?
Oh.
And if you didn't live through it, then it's hard for you to understand. But when September 11, 2001 happened, the nexus point of our historical tree here, our little time stream, changed completely. Everything changed with that single event. It was the most ingenious event that could have been planned by anyone to achieve all the things that the parasites wanted. They achieved everything they wanted. The most powerful country in the world was now terrified and uncertain. Fear and uncertainty.
That's right.
Americans said yes to everything and everyone that promised them safety. Oh, we're going to get those evildoers. Let's invade Afghanistan. Not a single Afghani on those planes. Not
That's
a
right.
one.
Yeah, they were Saudis. Yep.
Saudis. Did we invade Saudi Arabia? No, we didn't.
I don't remember that happening.
Iraq had nothing to do with anything.
That's right.
In fact, they hated each other. You have to understand that the Muslim fundamentalists hated the Ba'ath regimes both in Syria as well as in Iraq. That's why Iran and Iraq also went to war, because they're socialists. I mean, yes, they're autocracies, but they're socialist autocracies, which means they're secular. Right? They're not Islamic states. Iran is, Saudi Arabia is, Afghanistan is again. Lucky, good for us. Yeah, another Islamic state. We needed it. But the point is that all of that stuff that happened, all these wars and invasions and infringements upon your civil rights in America, but also in Australia. So in America, the Patriot Act 1, Patriot Act 2, Office of Homeland Security, a new department, the biggest one since the FBI, right? In Australia, we passed laws like that as well, which nobody read. Nobody read them. I listened to the debates. They said, well, when did we pass this? Last night. Well, you didn't give it to me to read. Don't worry about it. It's something we need to pass. They're very similar to the Patriot Acts, like, limited freedoms. You can hold someone as long as you want, etc., etc. And we just gave it away. We gave it all away. And this attitude of having someone to look after you, Dave, that's really what has been fostered over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And when it came to the pandemic, it was already a reflex. Oh, no, oh, yeah, look, I think the government, let's just follow the rules. Yeah. Now, was SARS-CoV-2 as bad as they say? Okay, so there are a number of things to unpack here, right? SARS-CoV-2, is it man-made? Is it natural? It does have some terrible effects on fertility. Okay?
That's right.
And we still don't know male fertility.
We won't see the merits of that for a while.
Yeah. No, yeah, but look, I believe there'll be a slowdown in birth rates. In fact, it's already been seeded. For the last couple of years, they've been seeding it in the papers and journals,
That's right,
etc.
saying birth rates are going down.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
It's already seeded. There's an expectation now, right? So when it happens, you're not that surprised. It's a very clever tactic.
I thought it was going to be fast food, but, that's what Bill Gates said.
Well, that would have been a great delivery mechanism as well, right?
Yeah, because you know what? The price point of fast food is perfect for the lower class.
Yeah.
To stop reproducing.
You used to be. Now fast food ain't that cheap no more, my friend.
No, you're right. That's true. Yeah.
I don't really eat it myself, I'll be honest with you, but once in a while, kids want to be treated to McDonald's, so we go and have a look.
That's right.
But it's not cheap. It's not cheap. If I feed my kids, and they don't eat that much, but that's $30.
Yeah, easy. But there's four burgers meal thing for $26. They say, right?
There you go.
Yeah,
$30.
That's right. Anyway, if I went to the local Asian shop, it'd be $85 for 4 people. So
that's true. You're right.
It's all scale, right?
No, you're 100% correct. But at least you're getting food.
Actually, it is food, yes.
and then, of course, there's the vaccine itself, which, again, all of the companies, and there's not just the one vaccine. There were many. Like I think here in Australia, we ended up having 3 or 4.
3.
Yeah. And globally, I think there were 7, 8, maybe more.
Yeah.
All the companies in the West, at least, I'm not too sure about China or Russia or elsewhere, they were completely indemnified against any damages or any claims of damages in the future, which means any damages you want to bring, you can't bring them to the companies because the companies said, well, we really haven't that much time to test these things. And that's a fair enough point. That's actually fair enough, right? But every government wanted the vaccine now. We need the vaccine now, give it to us now. Did the vaccine do anything? We still have COVID, or SARS-CoV-2 really. We still have it. We still have variants. People are still getting sick. The flu is pretty bad at the moment in Australia, but again, the flu has always been bad. And in fact, we had thousands of people die from the flu, mostly elderly. But it does happen. It's a thing, right? It's not a surprise.
That's right.
It is the other things with SARS-CoV-2 that are worrying, the long COVID, as well as the effects on your mental capabilities, because it seems to have some kind of
brain fog.
Exactly.
So not only that, but there's been excess deaths now.
Yes.
After all the vaccines have been deployed to everybody, and now we're seeing a large spike in what is known as excess deaths. So these are deaths that don't have a particular cause, right? That are unusual and above the baseline background noise of everyday life up until 2019. And so all the countries are spiking up, some 10-15% greater than normal per day. And I think it's alarming that there isn't any media on it. The only people doing those media, the media on it, or ringing the bell, are YouTube people trying to be very careful to keep their channels alive, but not saying anything specific about it, which is because they don't want to. You know what? This is big tech and corporate working with the government and big pharma to try and keep their products alive, and just cancelling you. You can't fight. No.
That kind of power, you can only fight if you're all united. Dave sent me this link to this video of a doctor. It's a doctor.
Yes.
And he goes on and
without saying any negative impacts.
No. In fact, he's got the setup is like you see the doctor, but you also see a pad of paper.
Like he's doing an overhead projector.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you see it at the same time on your screen. So he talks, and then when it comes to the stuff that he's not allowed to say, because the thing is this, at this point at least, YouTube's only picking up voice.
That's right.
Right? For censorship, not so much text. And so he would read the text until it comes to the point where he knows he'll be picked up on and either barred or something worse. Yeah. Who knows, right? And so you actually have to watch it and read along with him in order to do that. And he's doing that, of course, because he's protecting himself and he wants to get the message out without being shut down, right?
And he's only reading out news stories.
Well,
and articles that are published.
Research. But look, Dave and I did that as well. So Dave and I read out research papers, and we had one of our shows taken offline, right? Simply because, actually, I don't even know what the reason was.
Well, I do. It was for medical misinformation.
But it was a study that we were just sharing, which was published on the internet. It was published in a medical journal as well.
British medical journal it was published in.
So when we do things like that, unlike Mr. Jones, we make sure that we take it from sites that the establishment accepts, right? Because I'm not going to start any lawsuits here. I'm not stupid, right? I'm going to take the stuff that I find of peer-reviewed sites and say, well, this is medical research, and all of you, scientific method people, you've looked at it and you said, yeah, this is okay. Right, so I can share it, right? Yeah. In fact, on Sunday, we're going to share, if we get to it, some Freedom of Information Act articles with you. Now, this is one article. This is on telepathy, but it's related. So, which I can't find anywhere on the internet. I can't find in any library either.
Yeah.
The article, and it's missing 4 pages. So I've got the photostat of about, I want to say about 3 or 4 pages. So half the article is missing. And I can't find it anyways, but it's been released. But they only released half the article. I don't know if it was missed. Look, the point is this: there's a lot of information out there that's being released in the public, and even the stuff that's released, you're not allowed to repeat.
That's right. That's really important.
Yeah.
So I heard a thing going on at the moment because I watched the NASA once again and their inquiry into UAPs. Right. It's so fake that they've put these, plausible deniability people in, who don't believe in UFOs to begin with, who say there's no evidence at all, except for all these whistleblowers over the last at least 80 years have all come forward, and the evidence on our planet and historical evidence. Anyway, none of that is important. It's only today, and so they're saying, well, the military has stopped us asking questions. Okay, but we'll present something in 2 weeks' time. Well, I swear, that was a wet sock. They did a whole press conference for an hour to tell us nothing. Nothing. Didn't learn anything. Nope. Except for what I just said. That whole hour was condensed to the military stopped us asking questions. Right. That was it. So, well, have you stopped your own children from asking too many questions at one point? Honey. Honey, just go to sleep. It's bedtime. No. Stop asking. You're exciting yourself. Don't worry about that, right?
I've never done that.
Yeah, I haven't either. Because I answered
and you shouldn't. You shouldn't. No, look, but there's something interesting that was raised in the chat room, and we What's do that? Look at the chat room, everybody.
Yep.
In fact, it was Omega Logos who would like to chime in on the
the voice.
The voice. Now, I'll give you. Okay, everybody, I'll give you. I've said it before, but I'll give you my 5 cents worth, and then we've got plenty of time, Dave. You can give your 5 cents worth. Plenty of time. So, essentially, this is the view I have after I have spoken to a lot of people and listened to a lot of people, Aboriginal and otherwise. A lot of Aboriginals say the voice is a complete farce. Essentially, what is happening is that it's just, in their view, this is the view of the Aborigines that are opposing it, or the indigenous people. It's just it's a token given to them to shut them up. Just shut up. There's something for you. Shut up now, right? What they're asking for really is a treaty. Now, why is that important? Look at New Zealand. They have a treaty.
That's right.
There's some other nations in the world that have treaties with the indigenous population, and that is working out usually a lot better for the indigenous population than not. And if you look at the countries that don't have a treaty, like Australia, it's not really that good. So what they're asking for is an actual treaty. Give me a treaty. And I get it. I understand that, right? It makes perfect sense to me. So, am I supporting the voice as a thing? I did initially, but now I'm not so sure anymore, right? Because what's the point, right? What's the point? And not only that, but we also have to look at it from the point of view, of the vast majority of Australians that are in Australia today. Most of the Australians that are in Australia today are not descendants of the First Fleet anymore.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's just not. Right? We just all, me, including me, right? And Dave, I imagine yourself as well. We came after. We came later. Me coming from Germany, and Dave's ancestors also German and I think Irish or something.
Yeah, I've got Irish, Russian, and Dutch.
Yeah. We are pizzas. Like everybody from is a pizza.
That's right.
And so look, I never oppressed or killed Aborigines in the past, nor did my ancestors. My ancestors, they've got other crimes to answer for, right? And there's plenty of those. But we don't have that burden, I guess, right? That the First Fleeters might feel they have, right? And you can argue until you're blue in the face. There are disproportionately more Indigenous people in prison than anybody else.
Yeah, that's true.
There are more deaths of Indigenous people in prison than anybody else.
Or in custody, yeah.
Or in custody. There are also more... the child or infant mortality is higher. General health and life expectancy is lower or worse. And it is a fact that the culture that was here was effectively destroyed. And again, that's what normally happens when two cultures clash. When
you're overrun,
one loses out. That's what happens. So, what we need in Australia, if we really want to move forward, then we need to seriously entertain a treaty. That's what I think. Anyway, what do you think, Dave?
Yeah, let me have a shot. All right. So, I've seen the no vote, people, and I don't believe what they're pushing is the truth. So I've stayed away from their message. I did read it initially, and they said, "Oh, they're going to overrun the government." Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, good luck. We've had native Australians or original custodians of land in Parliament because they've gone through the white man's system, not because they're dressed in native dress and haven't had an education. They've probably a stolen generation. And they've had representation. Did they change the world? No. But Mackie's view that it really is, I'm going to use the term again, wet sock. It is the shut up clause. It is, look, here's just something at least you mention now. I don't think it goes far enough. I think the people who are using fear porn to press the argument for no is maybe just a little too soon. Has anyone read the actual statement yet, or the changes? I read the ones they had earlier, but I haven't read the new ones. So I think there's been some amendments to it. I'd like to read that and make my own informed decision about which way I should go. Yeah, I think it's very important for everybody to make an informed decision. But it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. What are the legal ramifications of creating a group of people who can only advise the government? They can't create policies on their own. They need sponsors to do that for them. They can't change or vote in Parliament. So can't change bills. So yes, I think it might be purely token at the moment. If you're going to argue that it's the thin edge of the wedge and man, it's all going to change, it's the end of Australia. We're going to give it back to them. Aha, great. I love where you went with that. So yes, it was only me doing the voice, but you can hear that the argument is flawed because we took it from them. And for them to get it back, man, isn't that what a treaty should be for? And I agree with Mackie. I think that the real way forward here is a treaty, a cleverly written treaty, where there are parts of Australia that are free to the native inhabitants, right? And it sounds terrible. We can't give them the whole place. I think a treaty where there's respective governance from both sides is a long way off. A real long way off, and we might not see it.
Possibly. I think you might be right there.
Because if there's this much tension now, imagine where that's going to go.
Oh, you see, this is going to sound really callous.
And what are we giving up? Why are we so afraid to give it up?
If you go and conquer someone, and what the British did here, they declared Australia terra nullius. What that means is there's no one here worth considering. We can take it. It's ours. There's no one here. There's no one here. Terra nullius. If you do that, you have to kill everybody that's there. Okay? That has happened in the past, where conquerors have just gone in. In fact, the conflict between Rome and Carthage.
That was the style at the time, Mickey.
Style at the time. Now, these were two powers, and Rome was not always certain to win, mind you, right? It could be a very different world right now if Carthage had won. But they went there and they raised with a Z, Carthage, and they salted the earth. The only historical records we have of Carthage are from the Romans.
And salting of the earth phrase, Mickey.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have nothing from the Carthaginians themselves, really, or hardly anything. Right, and that's what happened, and that's what used to happen when people went to war. There's a Chinese conqueror as well that just drove everyone in front of him and killed every last living thing.
Wow.
Not just people, but in this particular country or whatever it was, this area, every living thing that could be killed, his army killed. Animals, people, insects, whatever. He killed it all. And look,
you could concrete over that place and make it wonderful.
Yeah, and the thing is this: there won't be any future problems, at least not from these people, because they no longer exist. And this is really, this is really a lesson in history, because
we did that in Tasmania.
Exactly. If you conquer out there in the world, right, there will always be bad blood. There was in the Balkans. There was peace while Tito was in charge. Tito, the leader of Yugoslavia. As soon as Tito died, all hell broke loose, because these feuds, these blood feuds, had been simmering away for 50, 60 years. Okay? And they expressed themselves in the Balkans wars of the 90s. That wasn't a surprise at all. I wasn't surprised. I went to those countries, and I visited them on a regular basis on my way to Turkey for holidays. Okay, I'm not at all. I was not at all when it came to war. Yeah, but I expected that. I expected that because the pressure valve had been taken off, right? And the kettle exploded. So not taken off. The pressure valve had been taped shut, if you will, and the whole thing just exploded. And that every place on earth is like that. The Sudan, Yemen. Okay, anywhere in the stands, China itself, every country has minorities that are rearing to fight. Right? That's where we are. It's just how it is.
Less than a minute.
Oh, are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
where does the time go?
That doesn't go. Look, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Hopefully, Omega Logos. We fulfilled our end of the bargain, and by talking about it, I'm happy to talk about it more. But ultimately, it takes action to change things, right? And look, Australia is a beautiful country, and I'd hate to see it be torn apart by these kinds of fear-mongering activities and I don't know. It's just not necessary. Anyway, this has been Plato's Cave. Come and see us on Sunday for the Shiny Side Out telepathy. It's going to be awesome. And don't go anywhere. Don't know who's coming up next. Most of all, though, be safe.